Hello and welcome to another episode of Ringside Fracas. I'm your host Naeem, and today I'm joined by Chris. Chris, how are you, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just been keeping up with all the boxing and whatnot. You know how it goes.
Yeah, we've been away for a while. Just some changes, as you can see. I'm not in my usual setup. There's still changes going on, so sorry about that. But there's loads of boxing, so we have to get back into it. We have to get into it all with all of you guys, and we have to make sure that we cover all the news. So let's get straight into it because there's a lot we missed, and we need to talk about it. So first thing we're going to talk about is the most relevant piece of news. Obviously, uh, Rodriguez beating Yafai. I mean, Jose Rodriguez was a former unified minimum weight champion, minimum weight or light fly, one of the two. Um, and he made his way up in the divisions. Obviously, he got too small for that weight class. And he was fighting some of the best guys. He fought guys like Kazuta Ioka, Junta Nakatani, and gave them really hard fights. And for Galao Yafai, he's coming off, one of the best wins of his career, one of the best performances of his career when he completely dominated Sonny Edwards and stopped him inside 6 rounds. And so this fight was for Yafai's WBC interim title, and the winner of it would go on to fight Kenshiro Taraji. Obviously, if he beats Sandoval in, I think it's or July, I want to say. And so that's a fun fight to make, and a lot on the line, especially against Taraji, who's arguably a pound for pound level fighter, and world title shot as well on the line for both men. And Rodriguez, what? When coming into this fight, I kind of thought, Yafai is not really going to look good in this one. Rodriguez has that style that's just going to make it rough. He's going to make it tough. Yafai is not really the best back foot boxer. He's not, even though he's someone who's won the Olympic golds, he's not the most technically sound boxer when it comes to his defense or his movement. He's someone that loves to come forward and trade and throw his combinations. And I thought this was going to be a matchup, that would deliver. I kind of said in the group chat as well, make sure you lot watch this fight because stylistically, they were just going to mesh together to give us a violent fight, and they did
Yeah.
just that. I mean, Rodriguez really beat the crap out of Yafai for at least 10 rounds minimum. From start to finish, was beating the crap out of him, hurt him in the first round, kept hurting him, and dropped him in the last round. Arguably, he got more knockdowns than that, and it wasn't counted as knockdowns. Of course, if you're the A side fighter, you typically get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to a knockdown or a slip. Rodriguez really put on a punching clinic. I mean, he was in his face all day. He was countering with him. He was punching him with him. He was punching after, before. He was leading all the exchanges. He was bullying him on the inside. He was landing so many clean shots and counters that I felt really bad for Yafai because I thought, how much punishment. He's got chin. He's got a chin. He's got a heart, but he was taking a lot of shots. Yafai gave back as much as he could. I mean, he did try to answer back. And that's what made the fight really fun, was because Yafai doesn't have any other way to fight, so he had to come back, stay in the pocket and try to trade with him. And he did land some good shots, but Rodriguez was just eating it all, and he just did not care. He was really like it was one of those reality checks for Galao Yafai when you're someone like him who won Olympic gold and everyone's kind of building you the next big thing. I mean, people forget, there were talks about potentially one day doing a fight with Bam Rodriguez. That's how much they were hyping up Galau. Fair enough. I mean, he won the Olympic gold. If he's Olympic champion, I think he's the only Olympic gold medalist, male Olympic gold medalist at the time in Tokyo. So you'd hype him up. But this was that reality check that you went to the world level of flyweight and you just got completely dominated. And this level isn't really for you. And I've always thought that when Yafai was coming up, that I've never had or seen a performance from Yafai where I thought, this proves to me you can win a world title. This proves to me you belong at the top level. He's always been good, but he's never been that good. Like, he's someone that I look at, maybe European level is his level at the moment. And Rodriguez, he's been around. Like I said, he's fought the top guys: Donny Nietes, Kazuta Ioka, Junta Nakanani. He's fought the elite of the elite. He's given them all hard fights, and I always thought this was going to be a tough fight. I kind of, when I did a prediction for it, I kind of put Yafai winning just on the scorecards, that Rodriguez wouldn't get the benefit of the doubt, and that Yafai would just be able to somehow get through. But Rodriguez made sure there was no doubt. I mean, he really battered him. Like, it's hard to describe it because it was bad. It was just it shouldn't have gone on for
Yeah.
as long as it did. I
Yeah.
thought the corner should have pulled him out, especially when we saw what happened on the week of, when you see Jin Sasaki get laid out by a left hook when he shouldn't be in there, and then reports coming out that he lost 6 weeks of his memory.
It's not
You'd
memory.
hope
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd hope that the corner takes some, because they're also gonna know about that fight and take some kind of responsibility. Go, look, we got to pull him out. He's got no chance here. He's been beaten, battered. He's not a one-punch knockout artist where he's just going to somehow claw it back. He's been taking a battering, and it's best to protect him rather than let him go out on his shield. I mean, he's tough as hell. He was taking everything, but you shouldn't be taking everything, especially in that type of fight. And that last round was just hard to watch. But Chris, did you catch the fight? And what did you think of Yafai?
Yeah, so I actually watched the fight. I watched it the next day, next morning. And do you know what? I just didn't expect him to lose in such a fashion, man. That's the best way to describe it. Um, I've always rated his boxing skills. I think he's good. I think he's tidy, but he was getting hurt with everything. From the very first round, you could see he was struggling to keep up with the pace. Um, it was just too, Rodriguez was just too active for him. He just had too much energy. He was growing further and further into the fight. Didn't respect Yafai's power. Yeah, it was just a nightmare. And like you said, they really should have stopped it way earlier. Like it shouldn't ever get to points in fights where people are being dominated or where rounds are so one-sided for so long and fighters are taking so much punishment that, do you know what I mean? That you don't stop it. It shouldn't ever be like that.
Mm,
I know there's things on the line. I know fighters have their pride and they want to protect their egos and whatnot. And sometimes they feel like they can ride out the storm until, the 12th round to get a respectable UD loss. But it shouldn't ever be like that. It shouldn't ever be, especially as a corner, as a coach, you shouldn't ever let your fighter experience such a beatdown, in my opinion. I don't know if he's ever going to be the same after such a flogging, man. It was bad. He was getting rocked constantly, and that's what worries me more than anything else. Um, you think he's doing okay, you think he's recovering, then he gets rocked again and
mm.
again and again. And not only is it going to dent his confidence, mess up his psyche, but you know, if you get hit that frequently, if you have an experience such like this brutal, it's going to have a long-term health effect. There's no doubt about it. Um, but yeah, credit to Rodriguez. It'll be good to see where he goes from here, how he applies himself in his next fights. But yeah, I feel a bit gutted for Yafai.
Yeah, I get that, but I think it's always been a long time coming with him. Like, for me, I just look at him and I go, he's good, but it's just not. He's just not on the level, and he's never really
Mm,
proven that to me that he should have been on. He's on the level. Anyone
mm,
can change, obviously, in between fights. He can make, but when you look off of his resume in terms of who he's beaten, how he's beaten them, how he's looked, I've never been convinced that this is someone. I've been convinced that he could probably win it if how the rankings are, and you can get some rubbish fight for a vacant title. But I never
yeah.
looked at him as someone that could dethrone a world champion at flyweight. He just never gave me that confidence that he could. Um, Ra
Mm,
says Yafai should have been pulled after 8. Yeah, those extra 4 rounds probably finished him. Yeah, just because a fighter is tough and he can take a lot of punishment does not mean he should take that punishment. Especially when you're
exactly.
watching that fight, he's not hurting Rodriguez. He's landing clean shots, but Rodriguez literally coming forward and not even acknowledging that it landed. Like, that's for you the signal to go, okay, he's not going to hurt him, and he's clearly not turning it around. We need to pull him out
Mhm.
because he
Yeah.
and also you're a coach. You know how he fights. You know that he can't just become some random, or just randomly in one round magically become a good back foot boxer and able to just nullify. You know who he is. That he comes forward. That uh, he's got a lot of combinations, and that he's quite violent and he takes a lot of shots in between. You got to pull him out at that point, knowing that it's too much for him.
Mm,
Um, Ra even says he probably gets beaten by prospects now. That's true. One of the reasons being is because when you take those extra punishment, it doesn't leave you the same way. You don't come out of it the same. Like, if you
mm,
lost and you got knocked out by one punch or something, that's understandable, and you can kind of take that. Like, let's say you're winning a fight and then one punch just lays you out. Like Peter McGrail versus Jericho Quinn, that big knockout that he managed, like that's going to be big on his psyche, like you say, but it's not going to affect his resistance because it was one knockout punch that you take. But if you're taking a sustained beating for rounds after rounds, I said this after AJ Dubois. I said, like, that type of beating you don't want to take because you're taking hard punch after hard punch after hard punch until you crack, and you don't want to get broken down. That's the last thing you want. And so we'll have to see when he comes back. He'll probably come back by the end of the year if he's lucky, and we'll see what he can do. But Rodriguez, he's got Taraji in front of him. Obviously, Taraji has to beat Sandoval, but Taraji's a fantastic fighter. I mean, I know a lot of people watching and a lot of people that typically watch boxing, they don't typically tend to watch the lighter weights because there's that stigma. Well, they're quite small, they're not big, so it's not really a big spectacle like the heavyweights are, obviously. But if you watch some of those fights, they're more entertaining than some of the fights you get on like pay-per-view. Like even this fight was one of the most entertaining bouts that we got in quite a while. Like the violence of it, how much they threw. I mean, Rodriguez landed 575 punches in that
ridiculous, man.
Like these men are active. Like when Chocolatito and Estrada and Rungvisai, when they all about, they were beating each other up for fun. So it's one of those ones where I know for some people they don't like watching the lighter weights and whatnot, but trust me, some of the fights they're entertaining. Like if Taraji beats Sandoval and he fights Rodriguez, that's going to be another fight of the year contender because Taraji came off of a unification against Akui, and that was a fight of the year, and that was fun to watch. Like these are some fights that you're missing that you're like, if you watch it, you're like, okay, fair enough. So make sure you don't miss out some of these flyweights and these lighter weights because hey, look, Inoue came up from light flyweight, and look what he's doing. Look at Bam Rodriguez. Look at Junta Nakatani. They're all coming up.
Superstars.
But yeah. Ross is another guy that wasted too much time in the amateurs. Only heavyweights can start at 30 and still achieve something significant. Fair enough. I mean, I just don't think Yafai ever had the ability. I just don't think it was time. I just think he just never had the ability to turn over. Because I think you can turn over later, but then you expect it to accelerate a bit quicker, like Lomachenko, for example. But you have to have the ability. I just don't think he ever had the ability, even if he came out years before. I just don't think he would have the ability. I think staying in the amateurs actually served him better because he wouldn't have got the deals that he got if he didn't get that Olympic title. Just because he's the brother of, Cal and Gamal, it wasn't going to be enough to push him because let's be real, they're not the biggest names in Britain.
No.
So this kind of pushed him more when Matchroom signed him because Matchroom paraded him when they signed him first. So that was brutal. It was fun to watch though, as just a boxing spectacle. And the show was decent. I think who else? McGrail beat Baluta. It's gonna be interesting because I want to see Peter McGrail fight Shabazz Massoud. I think that's a really interesting fight, especially Peter McGrail needs. Well, he was meant to fight Dennis McCann, but McCann's got all the issues with the PEDs and all of that stuff. So that's sort out. I can't remember who. Pat Brown is on it. What's your thoughts on Pat Brown?
I've only seen him fight once. I wasn't that impressed, if I'm being frank. I don't really have much sentiment towards him.
I mean, I'm not someone who's like, oh, you have to have a successful amateur career to turn over the pros. We've seen so many pros who haven't had a successful amateur career but go on to be successful pros.
Yeah,
but he wasn't even that successful in the amateurs. I mean, he's Olympian. Yeah, fair enough. I'm not going to take that away from him. But he got knocked out in the first round. Not knocked out, but he got knocked out of the tournament in the first round.
Yeah.
He's never been someone that trailblazed. But the way Matchroom initially first promoted him, they did a whole homecoming. They did a whole. He main evented his debut. He did a whole. I think they did a whole like a event where he did like a meet and greet or something like that before he even fought. And I'm thinking, he's not someone that's like won a big title in the amateur scene for you to parade around. Putting a lot of investment into a guy that at cruiserweight, he probably won't bring the money in, if we're being honest. I just can't see him bringing the money in, and his style, I just don't think he's going to be a big problem. He could, for all intents and purposes, he could, prove me wrong, and fair enough, but I just don't see the hype behind him. And I just don't get.
I wasn't impressed. I wasn't impressed, but I'd love to be proved wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we need stars. We need stars. So if he turns out to be one, fair enough. I'm not
Mm.
complaining about that. But we turn over to this weekend where we've got a litany of fights to talk about. But we're going to first go over the big card, obviously the Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who's our Instagram mutual. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, big shout out to Julio Cesar Chavez, even though he probably thought Ringside Fracas was like some um, Instagram page for like baddies or something. Anyway, but anyway, the biggest fight I think on that card is this fight where I'm surprised MVP managed to get onto. We're going to get onto MVP in a bit. They managed to secure Zurdo versus Dorticos in a where Zurdo's defending his WBA and WBO cruiserweight titles. I thought
Mm.
that's a brilliant fight to put on your card. To be fair, like that's a very good fight to put on. With Zurdo and the way he beat CBS and the way he beat Gulamurin, he's taken the cruiserweight division by storm. But then you've also got Dorticus, who admittedly he's at the end of his career. He's been
Mhm.
quite inactive, but he's still one of the guys left from the old guard where getting a win over him would be good to add to the resume and keep Zurdo busy while he chases that Jairo Pataya fight. What's your thoughts
Mm.
on Zurdo and also this fight?
Zurdo's a great fighter. I feel like he'll Dorticos. If you asked me this question, 8 years ago, for example, I'd say it'd be a very competitive, exciting fight. But I think he's taken a bit of punishment in his career. He's over the hill. Um, Zerdo's got a lot left, a lot of life left in him. I just don't really see it being that competitive. I feel like we're really going to see Dorticos's age. I've not seen him fight in a little while. When was his last fight?
June 2024 against some random guy in Tampa, Florida. So like
Did he
one of
get?
those like legislative
Yeah.
fights, like
Did
those
he get
ones.
stoppage?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Let me check. I think I remember he did. Yeah,
Yeah. See, I've not.
he's still got
I've
the
not
power.
seen him. Yeah, the power's the last thing to go, and he does hit hard. Let's be honest about that. But I just feel the punch resistance, the speed, the timing, it's just going to be all off. And
3 fights in the
I
last 5 years.
yeah, come on. I expect Zerdo to stop him. Really, really and truly.
That's what I was kind of debating with today in my head because I'm kind of making a prediction. I'm kind of thinking, like, I think Zurdo's come into the cruiserweight division and made a seamless transition. Like, he beat Joe Smith Jr., which wasn't at cruiserweight limit. It was higher than, I think it was at 190, so it wasn't proper cruiserweight limit, but whatever. Then
Mm,
he, as soon as he does start to become a proper cruiserweight, there's no kind of feeling out process. He goes straight for Gulamirian, beats him, and he beats him up as well in that fight. He wins quite well, and then CBS week really dominated and beat the crap out of him. And I'm thinking in this
mm,
fight where Zurdo's style is so good, like right now, the way he's refined it, he can box well. He's not the most
mm,
defensively sound, but he loves to scrap. He knows how to bully you on the inside. He's getting his shots off, especially when you're leaning back. He's following with the combination and he's going to the body. He's keeping the pace up. I think a lot of people don't talk about that. His engine's quite good for a cruiserweight. He's keeping that pace up and he's making sure that the
mm,
scrap is going for the entirety of the fight. He's quite
yeah.
tough. Um, he isn't great with his feet, but he's quite tough. He can take a shot and he gives back more than he gets. Is he the biggest puncher? Probably not, but he's got enough
Mm,
power to make you feel it and be hurt. And the one thing I was
mm,
grappling with it is that Gulamirian and CBS on paper are really tough fighters, and they took a lot of punishment for him. Am I
mm,
is Dorticus going to be able to take that punishment? I don't think so. But Dorticus has only been stopped once in his career, and that was to
mm,
Murat Gassiev. And we all know
mm.
Murat Gassiev can punch through a brick wall. Like,
I,
and the
I
way
remember
he
that fight. I
that
remember
was a
that fight so well because Dorticos threw everything at Gassiev and just couldn't connect how he wanted to connect. And Gassiev seemed to have so much accuracy that day. He was landing at will. And we got the the end of the fight, which was very very memorable.
yeah, and that fight was a classic. I mean, the whole
Yeah,
cruiserweight tournament is a classic. I mean, if
yes.
anyone's ever interested in Usyk, watch that cruiserweight tournament in its entirety. Don't just watch Usyk's fight, but watch all the other fights because they're classics.
Mm,
But yeah, you're right. Dorticus was throwing the kitchen sink at him, and he hits hard. I don't think people realize
mm,
Dorticus basically punches like a heavyweight. So there's
mm,
a chance if Zurdo fights the way he fights, he could get wobbled by something. Not knocked out, but he could definitely get wobbled by something or catch something that
mm.
he shouldn't be getting caught by.
How old is Dorticos now?
39
Yeah.
years old. But Gassiev landed that one clean left hook, which is probably one of the cleanest left
Oof.
hooks you'll see, and that was it. It spelled the end of Dorticus. And I wonder, Zurdo doesn't have the power, but can he overwhelm him through to the volume and the amount he's pressing on him? He probably
Yeah.
can. And if I
Mm.
had to lean towards it, I'd say he probably will get a stoppage, knowing the platform he's on, because obviously he's on a Jake Paul fight, so he'll know that people will be tuning in, even people that don't normally watch him. And knowing that with this Jao Pataya fight coming, he wants to make a statement. Like
Mm.
they want to set this fight for the end of the year. He wants to make a big statement. And knocking out someone like Dorticus, even though he's 39, adding that to your resume. Imagine, you've only had 3 fights at cruiserweight, and it's been Gulamirian, CBS, and Dorticus. Even Dorticus at the end of his career is still a fantastic resume. I mean,
100%. Man.
I said it on the podcast account. I said it on the Twitter account. I said, I think he already is the number one cruiserweight, but if he beats Dorticus, it just cements him as the number one cruiserweight over Jai Opetaia. Because if you compare the resumes in the last, if you compare
Mm.
Jai's entire career resume to Zurdo's cruiserweight resume, which is
Night
only
and
three
day.
fights, I mean, Jai has the better win over Breedis, but that's
Yeah.
it. There's no other win I look at and I go, yeah, that's a really good win for Jai Opetaia. Thompson's
Mm.
barely British level. Zoro's barely
Mm.
British level. Um,
Mm.
Jack Massey is barely British level / European level. Um,
Mm.
yeah, that's it. And then Squeo and David Nika, they're not names, like they're not guys on that
No.
level. So while he's looked good, and Zurdo versus Opetaia, I think it's a fight that people are kind of overlooking because they kind of buy into the hype of Opetaia. I think Zurdo has more than a big chance of really beating Jai Opetaia in that one.
100%.
But first things first, you got to get through the knockout doctor, and they call him that for a reason. When he lands that right
Yeah.
hand, people are going to sleep. So he's got to watch
Yeah.
out for that. It'll be interesting because knowing Zurdo, while he'll be wary, he's quite smart in the ring. He'll be wary of it. He'll still engage that scrap, and he'll make it hell for Dorticus because he's going to try to drag him into those deep waters and stop him.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
going to be fun. I mean, I can't wait.
Yeah.
If I had to
100%.
get your early prediction, who do you think is going to win? If obviously Zurdo beats Dorticus, who would you put your money on? Zurdo or Pataya?
I think I'd go Opetaia.
Fair enough.
I think I'd go Opetaia. It'd be very, very tough, but I feel like Opetaia would rise to the level of his opponent. We know Zurdo seems to be a consummate professional,
Hmm.
and he
Well, when he's
he
at
digs
cruiserweight,
when he's
yeah.
at cruiserweight. Yeah, only when he's at cruiserweight. But I feel like Jai is explosive. His explosiveness, punch power, I feel like it will cause problems. Um, if Zurdo can navigate that and be able to take the edge off his power, frustrate him, then I could see him getting a points win for sure.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it will be close. I still think it will be close, but I could just see something like a knockdown changing the course of the fight in Jai Opetaia's favor. Um, but the only thing, like we said, the only thing that really stops me from believing it completely is the level of opponent Jai has fought
Hmm.
after Breedis. It's just not really been good enough. Um, maybe you're having good sparring, we don't know. But in terms of what you're doing in the ring, you're fighting guys that are way beneath your level. You know what I mean? And Zerdo's fighting decent level opponents. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
People with reputations, people who have standing in the division and were known before he fought them. So yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I feel like this Dorticos fight will tell us a lot, essentially.
Yeah, yeah. I'm leaning towards Zurdo. I just think he's got decent footwork in the terms of using angles. He uses angles really well. Why he's not bouncy on his and
Yeah.
explosive on it. He uses angles really well. And I think that mid range to close battle, he'll always be able to get that. And I think I just need to see more from Optaya. But I'm
Mm,
leaning towards this. I could change if the fight gets announced. It's
mm,
kind of
mm.
like the guy that has the
A hard
better
one.
experience right now is Zurdo, and I'm like, okay, he seems like
Mm,
could do it. But yeah, Ross says they're waiting up a tire. I think maybe they probably were doing that, but I think it'll happen. You know how they did last year, CBS versus Zurdo on the Latino night card in November. I think they're going to do
Yeah.
another edition of that, but it's going to be Zurdo and Opataya headlining that card. I think it will definitely happen this year. I don't think there'll be any because now there'll be no after this Dorticos fight. If he wins, of course, there shouldn't be any things in the way, mandatories or anything like that. So it's all in the open, and obviously,
Mm.
Turkey has his hand in both of those guys, so he's going to be able to pull them out and say, "Look, let's get this fight on." So
Mm.
be interesting to see. But that's a good fight to watch out for if you're staying up to watch Jake Paul versus Chavez
100%.
Jr.
Yeah.
And obviously, we come to the main event. Jake Paul taking on former world champion Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Do I knock Jake Paul for this opponent? No, because at the end of the day, if anyone's going to take the money and that's their fault. Is he probably going to win? Probably. Is he going to look good?
Mm.
Don't know, because Chavez Jr. is a proper loose cannon. Like, I mean, he's our Instagram mutual, so shout out Chavez. But he's just a loose cannon. He doesn't really take the game as he's quite talented. At his best, he's actually quite talented. That's why he's a world
Mm.
champion. But he doesn't take the game seriously. Like, as soon as the money came bowling in, and the fame and whatnot, he went down one path and he just stayed in that path and he's there. And that's why he's doing this fight again. It's going to be more money to keep going down those dark vices. I wish him well, but he's not got the sound mind, in my opinion, that he's going to come into this 100%.
Mm.
Does he get knocked out? I'm battling with that one, because is he?
I don't see it.
I mean, he's tough. He's definitely tough,
Mm.
but like, I'm not sure. He's just like he fought. I think he fought. What was it? Anderson Silva, and he lost. He didn't
Mm.
get dropped though. He lost that fight,
Mm.
and he
And
missed weight.
Silver's not a better boxer than Jake Paul.
No, I mean Silva lost him. So,
Yeah.
and he's only been stopped twice in his career. Once to Danny Jacobs, and once in a random hotel in Tijuana. But again, that I don't think that
Mm.
comes down to his resistance. I just think it comes down to it was a technical decision, so I think it was a cut. But
Mm.
I think it just comes down to he's tough because he went the distance with Canelo as well.
Mhm.
He fought Uriah Hall last year and he won that fight on the Jake Paul undercard. So it was kind of clear that he was going to fight Jake Paul and they were looking at him. But
Mm.
I think he'll get beaten. Will he get beaten up? Probably not. I think he's more than savvy enough to work his way around the ring where he might get dropped, but he doesn't get stopped. And
Mm.
Jake is limited at its best. I think a lot of people kind of look at like I know a lot of people were looking at the influencers like, oh, look at Soul Pappy, look at KSI, look at Jake. Like they could really. I think Jake is as limited as it gets. I think the what you see from him in the last couple fights is the best as he's going to get, and it's
Mm.
competent. It's competent boxing. He can box. He can throw the jab. He throws the right hand. But there's nothing. He's got decent athleticism. Not the greatest, but decent athleticism. But there's nothing to him that suggests to me one he's the biggest puncher. I just think he punches for his weight class, but he doesn't have that explosive power to knock out just anyone, which is why he's
Mm.
choosing smaller guys like Mike Perry, Nate Diaz, Anderson Silva, Tyron Woodley,
Mm.
and what's his name, Julio Cesar Chavez. Like they're typically smaller people. And then one time he did face a guy that was near his size and whatnot. He struggled. He couldn't even dent him.
Mm.
So I think Paul wins this. I think
Yeah.
he wins, and he just wins in the same fashion that he kind of did against the Diaz win or the Anderson Silva win, where he gets a knockdown. He looks better than the opponent, but we're not screaming like, "Oh my god, wow, this is really
Mm.
fantastic."
Mm.
But I have a very scared feeling that the winner of this will get contracted, like by the sanctioning bodies, to fight for a world title, and that will be scary.
Mm.
I'm
That
not
would be
sure. I'm
scary.
going to check into it, but that's scary. What's your thoughts on Jake Paul and Chavez?
So I don't really care how the fight ends up. Um, but I could definitely see, well, to be honest, Jake Paul being given a title shot opportunity. I can definitely see it happening.
Hmm.
Um, which is a bit of a shame, but that's boxing, that's show business. Um, it is what it is. They're putting on a show. Chavez Jr., if he had anything about him, would take Jake Paul to the cleaners. But I don't know. Part of me feels like a lot of these guys who decide to fight Jake Paul are just resigned to losing.
Hmm.
They're happy with the payday. They don't want to train. They just have to turn up. Um, and that's that. Do you know what I mean? Um, Not to discredit Jake Paul. We know he's been training. We know he works hard
Hmm.
with his coaches, but he's just not the standard. There's nothing exciting. There's nothing really redeemable about him. Um, Funnily enough, I didn't actually mind Logan too much as a boxer. He wasn't that great, but I don't know. Something about his athleticism was quite captivating. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
He's very, very athletic. He looks the part. He obviously talks the the way the Pauls talk in order to sell the fights. But Jake is very by the book.
Yeah.
Um, does the normal things. Seems to have some power in his right hand. Um, there's always going to be a controversy about the legitimacy of some of his knockouts,
Yeah.
and for good reason. But yeah, I'm just not that impressed. And I feel like everyone is literally forgetting that he lost to Tommy Fury.
Yeah. And you can never
And
get that back.
we know that Tommy Fury is not levels. He's
That's
not
one way of saying
levels.
it.
Yeah, be polite. So if you're losing to a fighter of Tommy Fury's caliber, what level would you even put him at? Not even British level, really. The
And that's why he's
local,
fighting smaller guys.
regional, maybe Essex, Manchester
Area. Yeah.
area, yeah, area level.
I mean,
Um,
yeah,
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 and to be honest, what Jake Paul's probably about an area level fighter. If he was to be matched up correctly, he'll be an area level fighter, I reckon.
yeah.
But
Go on.
no, no, you can say,
No, and it's not. Yeah, it's not. What you're saying isn't taken away from me. It's just the truth. Like
yeah,
you can't. Like, no one really can go through the levels in boxing. Like it takes a while to develop the skill and whatnot. And Jake just seems like he's got his mold and he doesn't really improve upon it. Like I haven't seen any improvements in his game. He can punch harder,
mm,
fine, but that's why he keeps bringing up smaller guys to fight him. And look, fair enough. We're not complaining. At the end of the day, you're not a boxer. And we've said it multiple times. Like you're an exhibition boxer, if anything, and you're making money off these exhibitions. Fair enough. Um,
mm,
you know, I mean, there's the one fight that everyone wants to see, which is a KSI fight, which obviously they should be doing because it's an insane amount of money that they're both going to make. But
mm,
they're going to do their business or whatever it is. But with Jake Paul, I can't knock him because at the same time, the opportunities are there for him. No one's saying no to him. They're all lining up to take the fights. People are lining up to watch the fights. People are lining up in the studio. Getting that Mike Tyson fight was the biggest thing he could have done because it just skyrocketed his profile even more than what it was before. Um,
mm,
in terms of the numbers and everything, and Netflix wanting to be involved and everything like that. Um,
mm,
so fair enough to him. But one thing I was mention is the title of the pod is Jake Paul good for boxing? I think his fights are take him how you will, whether you like him or don't like him, it's up to you. I think his promotion though, I think his
mm,
promotion has been really good for boxing. I think
mm.
MVP promotions have been fantastic. I mean, they put on this card this week with obviously Jake Paul, Chavez Jr., but on the undercard they've got Zurdo and Dorticos, and they've got also Floyd Schofield versus Tevin Farmer. That's a really good fight to make. Like
Yeah,
especially for someone
absolutely.
like Floyd Schofield's level, you want to see if he can take on a veteran like Tevin Farmer. So to be able to
Mm,
capture those fights, put it on your card, and if you look at some of their prospects cards and some of the lower cards that they have, they're putting on some really good fights between really good fighters that are lower level. Like they're giving a
mm,
platform to fighters who typically don't get that platform from the mainstream guys, and they're
mm,
giving them that opportunity to fight on the zone or fight on Netflix and make your name and make your case. Also have a big fight where against this other fighter, it's going to be a ranked fight, so you're going to go up in the rankings as well. Um,
mm,
they've had Ashton Sylvie, who they wanted to kind of get against Floyd Schofield, and they made that fight. Obviously, that fight fell apart, and Ashton Sylvie got knocked out in between. but they've been building guys up. Their promotion's quite decent, and I think generally for boxing, they're going to stay around for quite a while. Look at them; they made Taylor Serrano 2 and 3, and
Mm.
they put Taylor Serrano 2 on the obviously Paul Tyson card. And it's so huge, and now Taylor Serrano 3, Netflix want it, even though Taylor's won twice. They've managed to get um, that fight again on that, and they made an all women's card. I mean, credit to what they're doing in terms of like they're able to put smaller, lesser known fighters and give them such a big platform. So I think overall he's been good for boxing because his promotion does a lot of work. They get a lot of the fights done, especially like the fights that don't involve their big fighters, like obviously Jake Paul himself, but they get some
Mm.
really good, like lesser known fighters in good fights that you want to watch. What's your
Yeah.
thoughts on MVP?
They're bringing fight fans who would never tune into boxing, and I feel like that in itself is good for the sport. At the end of the day, it needs the eyes, it needs the attention in order to grow, in order to strive. Um, you can argue about the validity of some of the fighters and some of the fights themselves and the matchmaking. Yeah, there's a valid argument for it, but I think it's a net positive when you think about the fact that boxing, boxing in a sense, is a dying sport.
Mm.
It's struggling to maintain the fame and the notoriety it had in 70s, 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
Um, but anything that can help try and recapture that, especially with the advent of the UFC and the prominence of MMA federations, boxing's been struggling. Boxing as a sport has been struggling. And what happens is you lose boxers. You lose potential boxers. People who, you won't get your Mike Tysons who been studying the sport since 13 years old and want to be a big name and want to grow up and be world champion. You're getting guys who think, you know what, I'd rather take my athletic prowess to this sport or to that sport. Um, and so yeah, we need more eyes on boxing. And if this is the way to do it in this modern day and age, then so be it. I don't have a problem with it. Um, I still don't really rate Jake Paul as a boxer.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think he's bad. I just don't think he's that good.
Hmm.
But I think what he does in terms of promotion alongside MVP does have a net positive effect.
Yeah, and people forget this year they signed so many women fighters that will be good for the Taylor Serrano card. They got Alicia
Mm.
Baumgartner, they bought
Yeah, yeah.
Ellie Scottney, Chantel Cameron, Ramla Ali, Savannah Marshall, and they've even signed guys like Yankiel Rivera, who's a good, I think, it's a flyweight. He's a good flyweight that's really going to go up the rankings.
Mm,
They've also got Lucas Barty, who got that knockout over at their prospect Ashton Sylvie, and he could put up a decent fight against anyone. Obviously, not the greatest, but still. Um,
mm,
like they've been making moves where they're establishing themselves as that lower level promotion. We're not, we're going to work in tandem with guys like Matchroom and etc. and these lot rather than working against them or trying to compete,
mm,
which is good because
mm.
you, like you say, you need a separate platform for these lesser known fighters that can't get the big deals.
Yeah.
So yeah, so hopefully we keep seeing bigger, big events from them, but also we see the lower events like I think they've got one lower event that they haven't announced yet, but it's going to be a good fight between the two lower level guys, which is quite good. I forgot the names. I'll catch up in a bit, but that's something
Mm.
interesting. And I think overall, Jake Paul's been good for boxing in terms of what he's done, especially the work
Yeah.
he does, and it doesn't get mentioned, rather than the work he does that
Mm.
does get mentioned.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
fair enough. And other news in the obviously this weekend, you've also got I think Friday, you've got Christian Mbili coming back to fight
Mm.
Maja Sulecki for the WBC interim title.
Mm.
Super middleweight is in need of an injection because of Canelo and Crawford messing things up. I mean, we obviously all of us saw the press conferences and how weird that looked. Obviously, with Dana White being front and center, Max Kellerman being pushed to the front. I mean, I like Max Kellerman. Don't get me wrong; it just seemed a bit forced and contrived. You then obviously got them two now starting to beef despite a day before breaking bread and hugging each other and whatnot. So
Mm. Mm.
you have all of that. And well, my point is, the super middleweight division's been waiting for Canelo to basically move on. They know he's not going to
Mm.
defend his titles against any of the prospects because he's not in that mood anymore. He's just in there for the paydays. But we've got loads of contenders that want to look at it. Two contenders in mind is obviously Diego Pacheco and Christian Mbili. And then you've got someone like Oslis Iglesias, follows us on Twitter. Come on, Oslis. You know, great fighters who I think are pushing their way up the rankings, but they can't be forced to wait so long to get a world title shot. Like, if Canelo doesn't want to fight it, fair enough. Go for your paydays, drop the belts. I always say this. I mean, we had the UFC had a recent guy finally drop the belt after like 10 years, but you don't want Canelo holding the belt, not fighting anyone, because then what do the other fighters do? You're wasting their opportunities. Like, one of the reasons why Pacheco won't fight in Billy is because the money's not there yet, which is which is a duck, of course, but it's also, I get why. Like, he probably wants to fight in Billy for a world title or for a unification, but something's on the line and he can sell that. He doesn't want to do it for like an interim belt or even just a final eliminator. Like, if I'm going to fight a guy like that, fine, give me something.
It's a title fight. It is a title fight.
Like, or I'll wait for Canelo. If Canelo wants to fight me, then I at least wait for that Canelo fight because he's already fought. Belango. He'd be like, yeah, I'll fight Canelo. And then that reminds me, we've also obviously got Belango and Shiraz fighting now. Shiraz obviously making his way up to the super middleweight division. So those are big moves because whoever wins that will obviously go on towards the world level title scene. So this fight will be interesting because Mbili's fun, man. I think Mbili's like, you know how they say PMP. You know how they say PMP in football?
Yeah, that's him. That's him.
He's in like the pace, the power, the pressure. I mean, he just like
he's a dog, man.
I would never want to spar him. Like,
no, he's a dog, an absolute junkyard dog.
And even in the fight, I think he beat Sergey Derevyanchenko. Derevyanchenko, we all know, is great at being crafty and whatnot. I think he injured himself, and that's why he didn't look as great as he did. But he's so good, and like he's just such a powerhouse. So it'll be so interesting to see how someone like Diego Pacheco, who's also really good, he's coming through, to see how they fight each other. But then I do agree with the sentiment that I think they both deserve a world title at this point. Like, they both deserve a world title shot. So 100%. I'm not against it. What's your thoughts on Christian Mbili?
I like him, man. I like him. I've wanted him to fight. I thought he'd get the Canelo fight. Obviously, we're all wrong, but yeah, I really like the way he fights. I think he's entertaining. Some people call him one-dimensional. Yeah, maybe, but yeah, I just like the way he gets into scraps. He's powerful. He's strong. He really hurts guys. He works them up to the down to the body, up top, all sorts. So yeah, I've always enjoyed watching him fight. So I hope he'll get a world title shot. I don't know what happens with Canelo Crawford, but once that debacle's done, hopefully he gets his opportunity, especially Christian and Billy.
Yeah. And super middleweight division, like, once Canelo and Crawford move on from whatever it is they do, some, like I said, some gems there that are going to really put on some good fights, like Christian and Billy, like we said, Diego Pacheco, Belango and Shiraz now in the mix, Oslis Iglesias. Like, those are really, really good fights that could happen. Damn, Oslis follows you. I can't even get a message back from him. You need to run a seminar for boxing media guys, how to slide into a fighter's DMs correctly. We need to I can't. I'm proper confused by why he follows us, because he only follows 2 people on his Twitter, and someone else, like some random kickboxing guy they probably knows, and us. I don't know what we did to get the follow. I'll take it, but it's proper random that he followed us. But fair enough. We also, I do talk to his promotions media guys, and they're quite nice. They're really nice. They always give us like loads of things to talk about and whatnot. They've always said if you want any interviews or whatnot, so I always talk to him. So that's good. The only reason I don't go out to those fights is because they're all the way in Canada, so obviously I can't make it out to Canada. But they're fantastic promotion. Eye of the Tiger promotion is fantastic, which Christian Mbili is also a part of. Mbili Duck Sadjo. That's true. There was a purse bid for, I think it was a purse bid for Mbili and Sadjo to fight in France, which would have been fantastic because I think both are French. I think. Well, I don't know. I think Mbili's Cameroon.
Is both French-speaking countries.
Let me just check. No, he's French. He's French. Yeah. So
he's actually French. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, that would have been a fantastic fight because both of them are big powerhouses. They really can punch.
Mm.
I think Billy would have won
Yeah.
that, but it was really violent and it would have
That
gotten
would be
Billy's name out there.
yeah. Yeah.
So I remember when Sasha beat up Jack Cullen and then he started doing push-ups in the ring and then the ref had to
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
tell him
yeah.
off. That was funny.
That was he's a lunatic.
Ra says they robbed us of the Cameroon derby.
Yeah.
But individual says Jake Paul is definitely making boxing more popular. Yeah, fair enough. Ra says they're both of Cameroon descent, one French Cameroon, one Canadian Cameroon. Fair enough.
Mm.
That's fair. I think also Canada has loads of links to France as well. So
Mm.
Ra says, wait, can you put in touch with them? Yeah, I'll DM you, don't worry. I'll get that sorted. But yeah, that's a fun fight this week that's happening.
Yeah.
You got Australians fighting like Liam Paro coming back and Liam Wilson. So that's I think on Thursday, which again Australia and Japan always on weird times, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Complain. And that's really it. It's a decent weekend. We've got loads of fights obviously coming up. I mean, July 12th, you've got the Ring 3 card. What a fantastic card. I mean, that's going to take like over an hour or two to dissect because you've also got Belanga Shiraz, Murel Katayev, Pueo Matias. There's another fight I'm forgetting, but there's loads of fights on that. July 19th, you then got Usyk Dubois, which if any of you are going, you'll catch us there as well. So make sure to say hi. And what else? July 19th, I think I'm mixing something. Oh, Bam Rodriguez is back in July, so that will be fun. So getting into that month where things are starting to heat up again. Usyk Dubois obviously being the biggest fight of them all. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting build up, and then obviously we're going into September soon at some point, and there's only one fight people are going to be talking about in September. That's going to be Canelo Crawford, where they started the promotion now. So it'll be interesting to see that. We'll have a bigger discussion over Canelo Crawford on a separate pod episode because I think that kind of warrants its own. Because I think a lot of us, especially in the last couple of weeks, we've been thinking different things about this fight in terms of how we feel about it. So it'll be good to dissect all of that. Make sure to subscribe and like and comment if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not, if you're watching on Twitter, make sure to retweet, follow us, but also go over to our YouTube and subscribe and like as well. There, share the video to whoever you know that enjoys boxing and talking about boxing. And always, please let us know your thoughts in the comments about things you want to talk about, things you think. Give us your thoughts so we can also talk about it in the next week's pod. And also let us know how you're finding things. And yeah, like I said, it's always a journey. We're always trying to learn more about boxing. We're always trying to enjoy the boxing world as it comes along, especially with the fights that we're getting. So please stay with us on this journey, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
Cheers.